parenting experts say it's what our kids need now more than ever, but knowing how to instill resilience, that ability to bounce back from life's trials, that's tough from the parenting perspective. My next guest says one of the most effective ways to teach kids how to be mentally tough is actually through storytelling. Welcome to Studio 5 relationship contributor, Dr. Matt Townsend.
Thanks, Brooklyn.
I am ears open, so eager to hear your advice, because this feels like one of those ambiguous topics. Like, we want to raise resilient kids.
Let's get them resilient.
But how?
Well, and the thing is that so our meaning in life, our understanding in life always comes through interaction. But a lot of times we wait till like the kids hit a wall, then we pull them aside and then, let me tell you a story about when I was resilient. And then we tell them the story. But what might be more valuable is when they're younger and as they're growing up and kind of experiencing life and life beats them up a little bit, why don't we just start telling these stories now so they start to understand that part of life is just hard, that there's loss, that there's difficult things that have to be done, that sometimes you have to kind of find yourself. And if we start to show them that life is about finding a bunch of clues along the way, and then show them how we did it, show them how you can do it, show them how mom did it, how grandma did it, and tell more of these stories, then they're not as shocked that life is really hard.
So you're essentially giving them a dose of medicine before the point of pain.
Yeah, you're inoculating them, right? Like you're getting them ready so they don't, so that when the pain arises, they already have 5 examples of where dad or mom or aunt or grandma were all capable of overcoming that.
So these are personal stories.
Yeah.
Why are those types of stories so valuable?
Well, one of them is because they mean something to you, right? So when I tell a personal story about me, my kids see that it's emotion. Like my kid the other day asked me, we were driving to do a big event, and he's like, do you get nervous doing these events? And it dawned on me that, yeah. I mean, I get a different kind of nervous. I get weirded out. I get a little wigged out. But I don't know that he's ever seen me like nervous about doing an event. They just see me doing it, thinking it's easy. They see you up on
stage being confident and doing what you do best.
So then I can tell them with passion and energy that, yeah, I was terrified. In fact, I remember the moment that it dawned on me that I don't need to be worried when I'm speaking. And I can then tell him the story. And then it was in college at about his same age, and it actually created this really powerful connection that even dad was scared, but then once you're on top of the wave and you can ride the wave, you can do something that dad's doing.
I love that. I also love how you've broken this up for us today, because you're giving us kind of story categories.
Yeah.
So, you know, types of stories that we can reach into our mindset and pull out
grab it.
and use. The first one is called a who am I story.
Everybody needs to know the who am I story. Kind of like, who are you really in relation to the rest of the world? Why are you here? Who are you? What are you here to do? This is a great place to bring in kind of your spiritual beliefs, your values. If you have a before life or an after kind of you got here to this earth story, if you have a belief where it's going, this is where you tell it. And then what are you finding out on earth that you're supposed to bring to this world? And when you can all of a sudden tell your kid that I didn't know all the way through college who I really was until this moment. And then you share a story, and it could be, I mean, it could be really when you just realized this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and like maybe the spirit or peace or this sense of purpose came over you and filled your heart, and you're like, that's my purpose. And then you can hand it to them and say, we got to help you figure that out. And then have a discussion. What do you like to do?
I know this might depend on the age of the child, but do you find most often these are better shared in the formal sit-down moments, or more just in the day-to-day driving in the car?
Driving in the car.
Yeah.
And then ask them, like, throw it kind of back on them. Who do you think you are, really? And what do you think you're here to accomplish? And that's weird to ask a young one, but I ask my kids, what are you going to leave? What's your verse going to be here? What's your chapter going to be on this earth?
Do their answers surprise you?
Yeah, it's like, Fortnite, Dad, for sure. I'm going to dominate Fortnite. But what's amazing is that you also learn about your child. And then as they get older and as they age, a lot of times they'll say, I don't know. And then don't ever take the I don't know as an answer. Just say, well, good, we'll figure it out. And then, do you think it's this? And they'll usually say, no. Do you think it's this? So if they know a lot of things it's not, then they kind of have a sense of what it might be.
When do lessons from loss really apply and help build our kids up in the way we're talking about?
Think about when you lost something important. You lost a person, a grandma, someone that passed away, or you lost an opportunity, or you lost the dream. When you realized you weren't going to be a pro baseball player. And you're like, I remember when I was fired from a job, and it wasn't something I gave up, it's something they took back from me. And then share the loss, and even compare it to the losses they have. Do you remember when we left your teddy bear wherever? Do you remember that? Do you remember the aching that you felt and how sad you were? Dad felt the exact same way. And then this is what I realized about the loss. The loss created an opportunity for something else. The loss, eventually, I was strong enough to overcome. We move on from loss. What if you could get in your kids' heads right now, there's going to be loss.
Yeah.
And not just theoretically, but realistically, and we'll overcome it. Dad's overcome it.
I remember a time in my personal situation, this is years ago, I was up against a big personal loss.
Yeah.
And in a very poignant moment during that trial, I remember a story coming back to my head about my dad that he shared with me that he lost the student council election.
Yeah.
Now, they were different on the scales,
totally.
but it played over in my head how he felt, how he handled it, and I drew upon that in that tense moment.
Because they don't have their own repertoire, right? They don't have their own data yet, so but they can draw on mom and dad's. And if then all of a sudden you can build the bridge that you're going to be fine. We recover from loss.
We've got a minute left, Matt, so let's cruise through some of these. What matters most is
what matters most is the story about all the little principles in life that you have found that truly matter, and when you've been off and you realize what mattered most. Maybe family matters most.
Stories where you handled life stress, you say, are really valuable.
Really cool thing to teach your kids is that life is stressful and that you can actually learn to do it. Like a time when you wanted to punch someone, a time when you lost it, a time where you were embarrassed and totally humiliated and that you actually got your way through it, a time when you felt anxious, and how did you manage it?
And finally, a story that reveals a time or a place where you did something hard.
Way hard. I got a PhD. This was the kid that couldn't even get into college, got a PhD. Can't imagine I did it, and I did it a day at a time, and I just teach how I did it. And all of a sudden you realize, I did hard things, but it's good for your kids to see that, right? These are just simple little discussions, and it's not just mine. It can be Marty's, my wife's, it can be other people's. We can borrow other people's stories and then start to share and keep conversations going.
Parents need this, we need this
Awesome.
roadmap. And
it's
I know
the way to resilience.
You're putting together a parenting workshop that will share more valuable information.
This is one of the funnest things I've been doing lately is trying to figure out how we teach the kids to be resilient, deal with the difficult things. So coming up, we're going to have on May 12th, Saturday, 9 to 1, an entire half a day on parenting. Lots of tools, lots of fun. We'll laugh, give you very real skills and tools to be a little stronger with your kids so the kids aren't running the show and so your kids can actually make it through life.
Hold me a seat. I want to be there.
It's going to be way cool.
Tickets go fast, so be sure to hop over his website and secure your own seat. We'll link you over from ours to make it easy. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks, Brooke.